Today I want to share my thoughts on the book that I read recently, Flowers for Algernon. It follows the story of Charlie Gordon, a person with mental impairment. I think his IQ is below 70 and he works as a cleaner at a bakery. He's very sweet, very open, and tries to make people laugh. Obviously, I'm aware of people laughing at him, not with him. But there's one thing that he really wants in this world, and it to be smart. We find out later why his desire is so strong, and that's why he goes to the adult education class with Alice, where people with some mental impairments go there to learn how to write and read. Because of his strong desire to become smarter, he becomes a perfect specimen for one of the experiments of Dr. Strauss and Nimor. I have no idea how to pronounce their names. Those professors are trying to make people with some mental impairments to become more smart through the surgery. They have already done the surgery on the mouse. His name is Algernon, and the results were very, very positive, so they're trying to recreate the results on people as well. Obviously, I have to mention the style in what this book was written. Starting the first reports, we see a lot of grammatical mistakes, no punctuation whatsoever, and then throughout this process, we can notice that Charlie's becoming more smart, using more complicated words, no spelling mistakes, correct punctuation. It's very fun to read. The only complaint I have is that you never really feel like Charlie is intellectual genius based on his reports. And I know that they've mentioned in the earlier reports that the professor asked Charlie to write in more simple language so it's more accessible to the public. I do feel like, though, maybe there should have been some parts in the book where Charlie would go deep into a specific topic to make us truly believe that he's a genius. Because I doubt that in the very emotional moments he would really think about what professors told him to do. It would be very cool if he used a little more complicated language throughout some parts, not everywhere obviously, but at least in some moments of his life. I think my favorite aspect and part of the book is learning about all the traumas that Charlie went through as a kid, which explains a lot of his behavior. For example, his strong desire to become more smart, comes from his mother trying to make him be normal, and then after getting a daughter who doesn't have the same mental impairment as Charlie, just completely forgetting him, abandoning him, trying to erase him from her life. All the shame that the mother felt and all the shame that reflected on Charlie and other members of the family as well. It's very, very hard to read, especially when it came to sexual shame, which led to Charlie being xenophobic. Two parts from what I remember. Once in school, when he liked this girl, he wanted to write a Valentine for her, but he couldn't read, so he could read or write. So he asked one of his classmates to write it for him, and the classmate, being an asshole, wrote like very nasty things, I assume, towards this girl, which led to her two big brothers beating up Charlie and him not knowing what exactly happened. But I think the biggest moment of shame was when mother accused Charlie of being weird around his sister, which we don't really know for sure if it was as she perceived it to be. It could have been that way, or it was maybe normal. But because of this trauma that he has, he couldn't have sex with Alice, his teacher, who he developed romantic feelings for, which Alice, as a character, she is probably one of the main secondary characters in this book, and I don't know how I feel about her. I do like her. I did like her, especially at the start, but then throughout the progression of the book, I think she was more of an abandoned character, and especially seeing her at the end, very complacent I don't really know. It didn't sit right with me. Also, there's one specific moment in the book, I think it's at the beginning of their relationship, when Charlie just started to become more intelligent and he realized that he has feelings for his teacher, and they go out, and then at the end of the night she kind of rejects him or says it's a bad idea, and then he gets angry, and that gave me an ick. I did not like that at all. When someone rejects you, you should just accept that rejection and move forward. But obviously Charlie is emotionally mature, even though he has all the intelligence in the world. The only good character in the Charlie's family was Matt, his dad. He accepted that Charlie is the way he is a long time ago, and it was very frustrating, obviously, to see him fight with his wife. At one point, Charlie goes visit his dad because his dad now has his own barbershop that he always dreamed of. And I kind of knew where it was going. I knew that Charlie probably wouldn't reveal himself to his dad specifically, but I really hope they would see that interaction, because I would want to know more about dad's perspective on everything and how his life has been, what he's up to now, obviously aside from being a barber at his own barbershop. The meeting with his mom was also something that I kind of expected. I knew that she wouldn't be in a very stable state, especially because we already saw her mental breakdowns throughout Charlie's life when he was a little, so I assume 20 years later it's probably going to be worse. I did like his interaction with his sister. Obviously, I don't blame his sister for acting the way she was when she was a kid, because she basically mirrored how her mom treated Charlie, especially as she got older. So she would also treat him as something, as not a person, as a burden, as a shameful thing that you should hide and pretend that he doesn't exist. And I think throughout his life, Charlie, as he becomes more intelligent, realized that he was treated more like an object, besides his dad probably and Alice, some other people, but his family, people at school, obviously as later as a testing subject by professors. I think in the middle of the book, the mouse Algernon starts showing signs of aggression, and he stops solving puzzles as fast as he used to. And Charlie realized that, okay, maybe this effect was temporary, and he starts his own research to see if it's something that he can prevent, or maybe it's something he can prevent. And at the end, he realizes, using all his new formulas after hours and hours of working, that it is unfortunately unsuccessful and can only give a temporary effect. One of the other, I guess, small critiques that I have is how the author tries to connect memory loss with mental impairment, which I guess could be the case, but I also read that for most people with mental impairment, it doesn't have a lot of issues with memory specifically. But Charlie starts forgetting a lot of things, like, oh, what does this test mean? He starts forgetting all the languages he learned. Oh, also, I forgot that once at the beginning, when he was learning and trying to get more information, I think the professors did use the method of teaching in sleep, which was kind of whack, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't really work, and there's not a lot of studies that support this idea of sleep learning. But it's okay. It wasn't that big of a deal. I can look past it. The interesting thing was to compare Charlie's regression with Charlie's starting point, because we can remember that Charlie at the beginning was a very sweet, very innocent guy, and then when his regression started, instead of being like xenophobe like he was before, he's afraid of sex, women, he starts looking at his neighbor who was undressing or taking a bath shamelessly, even though he knows that it is kind of wrong. He becomes untidy, and obviously shows clear signs of depression. One topic I liked about this book, and to me it is always has been fascinating, is about two different versions of a person. In the book, they definitely try to make the Charlie that we have at the beginning and Charlie with a lot of intellect, two separate entities, like being two separate entities, especially when Charlie with more intellect, whenever he has those emotional breakdowns, he sees a a person he used to be before over his shoulder, somewhere in the mirror, always reminding him of his past. And to me, it's always interesting to think about if Charlie Gordon in the beginning of the book is the same person as the Charlie in the middle of the book with all the knowledge that he has. Because sometimes I also think, oh, is me right now the same person as me at 5 years old? I have all those memories, all those experiences that a 5-year-old me had, but at the same time, my thoughts are completely different, my social circle is completely different, location, my opinions, my knowledge, all of it is so different, but I am the same person in the same body. Both completely different thoughts, completely different conscientiousness. To me, it's just fascinating how one person can have so many different versions of themselves throughout the whole lives. Oh, one thing, for some reason, even though I am an animal lover, not in a weird way, but I did not feel that much empathy for Algernon. You know, he's more supposed to be a reflection of our main character, but I did not have some kind of emotional connection to this animal. Other interesting aspect was the way Charlie looked at the world before the surgery. He saw Baker as his home, people who worked there were his friends, even though from their perspective, most of them were just making fun of him, using him as a party trick, some sort. But from Charlie's POV, he did see them as friends, and obviously the world that you live is just your perception of the world. I do think that they were his real friends in Charlie's mind in the beginning of the book. Obviously that changed, he realized that they treated him unfairly and this connection to them just fades. I guess I want to see Charlie lash out on his mother, just because what she made him go through. She was a shitty mother. I can fully understand her though, especially at that time. I do think that a lot of women's worth was connected to giving birth and their children specifically. Especially I think she was a housewife. I don't think she had any job, and her only job was making babies and taking care of them. I understand that having a kid that's not normal in that period of time for women is just hits heavier than the fathers. Maybe that's the reason why Matt was a little more chill about it, but a lot of women's worth was connected to their kids. So I do understand her, but it doesn't really excuse her from being a shitty mother and just almost killing. At one point she was thinking about killing Charlie just because the father was refusing to take him somewhere else. It's one of the situations where I do understand the characters' thoughts and actions, but it doesn't excuse them from being shitty. Because she was a shitty person, she was a bad mother. Overall, I did like the book. I thought it was very fun.